Good evening guys, and welcome back to another episode of Nick's Veggie Patch. I'm doing a short video this evening in recognition of all the YouTube followers that have subscribed to my channel over the last few days, and also doing a short little video to give you advice on how to do your allotment. And if you're new to allotment tiering, just giving you helpful tips and handy hints, as I've got a new follower called Laura's Petal Patch. Her and her partner have just purchased an allotment where they live, and after a few months of clearing their plot, they're ready to go now to start growing. So I just thought I'd give you a few hints, tips and ideas on how to do your plot. You don't have to follow what I've done, but this is how I decided to do my vegetable patch, and some of the ideas I got off other people. So one of the first things I did was I decided to do myself a plan. So basically I drew out a plan, and then I wrote on the plan everything I wanted to plant. I didn't put everything in the places that I put on the plan. That was just a rough guide, but I find it's always handy if you've got a plan. Then you know basically where you're starting from. Also, what I did when I got my plot, me and the wife obviously had a lot to clear, because the previous person who'd had it had basically covered it over, and it was full of weeds, but it was also full of stuff that we could make use of. So what I did was I started from one end of my plot and worked towards the other end, so that basically I wasn't rushing myself, and because we were new to it, we didn't want to spend a lot of money or throw a lot of money at trying to get up and running straight away, because obviously where I am, my plot, you're given around about 12 months to get your plot completely up together. So we worked from one end to the other till eventually we've got our plot up and running. So I did a little design on a piece of A4 white card, and it was just basically a design of where I wanted to plant stuff, what we were going to plant, and just to see what it would look like. There are other things you can do. One of the other things that we also did was to write a list of all the stuff we were going to plant. So on some blank pieces of paper, I basically wrote down everything we were going to plant pretty much in our first and second year, and that gave us a rough idea on what to plant, and it also basically showed us what worked well, what didn't work well. So we basically looked at what was best to sow, when to plant out, when to harvest. So I always find if you make yourself a little list, and I've got several here of just stuff that we wanted to plant, or we wanted to sow, sorry, and eventually plant out. But yeah, it's always a good idea if you've got a list of things you know you want to grow, rather than just buying loads of seeds and then going, oh, I'm going to put all those into cell trays, sow them and plant the whole lot out. I find it's always best if you just have so many items that you want to sow to start off with and not put yourself under a lot of pressure. Also, what I did was I created my own gardening checklist. So for me, I put about 8 things on my gardening checklist, on what to do on my plot. Things like water the plot, plants and seedlings, give our seedlings and plants in our greenhouse or our polytunnel what I call a daily, weekly health check. So basically you're just making sure that your seedlings and your plants are healthy, they're not wilting, they're getting enough sunlight, they're getting enough water. Basically a small little checklist, and I wrote down 8 things on my checklist. You can make the checklist as big as you like or as small as you like, but basically it's just a checklist so that you don't get yourself bogged down, because people take on an allotment plot and sometimes it can get on top of them. So I always find if you make yourself a list of a few things to do and then gradually tick off those items on your checklist, that way you won't bog yourself down, you won't get frustrated, you won't go, oh, I think this is too much, I don't think I can do this anymore. So for instance, if you're down there and you've got loads of weeding to do and you hate weeding, which I do, I hate weeding, and then you think, oh, I've got seeds to sow, and you think, oh, that's one job I love doing. So what we do is we'll do all the sowing of the seeds, but we won't do the weeding of our beds. And obviously the weeding of our beds is one of the most important things to do, because at the end of the day, if our beds aren't weeded, we've got nowhere to plant the stuff that we sow. So I always find if you're going to do a checklist, put 5 things on it. So things that you want to prioritize to make sure you want to get done first. I've done 8 things on my checklist, and this is a checklist I can go back to every day, every week, month. You can do a separate checklist if you've got stuff that you need to get done on your allotment. So for instance, if you know there's lots of weeding to be done, raised beds to be built, rubbish to clear, I would suggest personally, from listening to other people, is to do yourself a checklist so you don't get bogged down on what you're doing. And then eventually, as you go through each of those checklists, you can tick them off, I've done that. And then what you'll find at the end of it, you'll find you love doing your allotment plot because you've got all the jobs you hate out of the way, and then you're left with all the jobs you love. So I hope this gives you some handy tips and ideas. I'm going to be posting some pictures up on this video of what my plot looks like at the moment, and some of the things that I've achieved. Obviously building my raised bed in the polytunnel. But yeah, hopefully this is a video that will come in handy. Just remember, you don't need to throw a lot of money at it first time around, or I wouldn't throw a lot of money at it first time around. There's a lot of stuff you can reclaim. So where I live, there's a centre called the Patio Centre. They give away free pallets. Sometimes they're broken, sometimes they're okay, but if they're outside their centre, you can take them away, and they're a good way of making planters, or making compost bins out of them. Another tip that I can give you, if you're new to allotment tiering and you're thinking of going down the raised bed way, is see if you have a local scaffolding or builders merchants, because sometimes scaffolding companies will throw away all their broken scaffolding boards because they can't use them back into the trade. We've got one here where I live, in Andover, and basically I went and asked them if I could have 4 of their broken scaffolding boards, which they said, yep, there's no problem, providing I didn't use them for scaffolding. I paid a little bit of a charge. They were about 13 foot, and no, I rephrase that, they weren't 13 foot, they were 13 meters. Sorry, they weren't 13 foot, they were 13 meters. And the scaffolding company cut them in half for me, and I used them to make my raised bed in my polytunnel. But my friend Dave Dixon, who's got a plot down at my allotment site, he went to this same scaffolding company. He brought a load of their boards and he made raised beds out of all the boards that he got, and anything left over he made tiny little planters to plant herbs in or flowers in. So yeah, if you can recycle anything, reclaim anything, I reclaimed concrete slabs and used them around my plot. I used them to put my greenhouse on. So yeah, anything you can reclaim or recycle that doesn't cost a lot of money is always a handy starter for anyone starting out on their own plot. So if you can get it for free to start off with, it's absolutely brilliant. If you have to spend a little bit of money throughout your time on your plot, then that's fine as well. But I would say try not to spend a lot of money, because you can build stuff and it doesn't cost anything. Anything else you build, yeah, it might cost a little bit, but you expect that. But just make sure you go with a plan, you know what you want to do. And as I say, in the first year, well, in my first year, I just started at one end of our plot and worked to the other. So basically when the 12 months came up on my plot, we'd finished one end of the plot to the other. So we weren't rushing it, we took our time, we had a plan, we knew exactly what we wanted to do, and we went from there. And now every year it's an easier task because there's only a little bit of weeding to do. And the nicer side of doing my allotment is I can have the enjoyment of sowing my seeds planting out my fruits and vegetables, and then reap the rewards at the end of the grown season, knowing that everything I've grown is all mine. It's absolutely 100% fresh. I know where it's come from, and normally I can pick my veg and within half an hour to an hour I've blanched it and I've put it in the freezer. And I haven't had to spend hardly any money going to the supermarket and buying vegetables. So if you've got any ideas you want to throw at me, or if there's anything you'd like me to give you advice on, or any tips I can give you, then don't hesitate to leave a message after this video is uploaded. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I shall see you guys and girls at the weekend for another episode of Nick's Veggie Patch. This is a shout out to all my fellow YouTube followers. Thanks for subscribing, guys. Thanks for watching. To see more from Nick's Veggie Patch, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for new notifications, and don't forget, please click on the thumb at the bottom of the page to save videos to favourites. Bye for now, guys and girls.